Hey guys, my name is Haley, and today I'm just going to be doing a sort of chatty update and like goals for the year. I don't go hard on reading goals, so don't expect it to be that, and I also don't want my entire channel to be solely about books this year, so if you want to hear about some changes, some chats, some things I want to get into this year, stick around. Hit the subscribe button, like this video, comment down below if you have anything to say. Any way to interact is helpful because one of my goals, and the main goal, is to get to at least 1,000 subscribers this year, hopefully. The goal, which I'm already like kind of failing at because I didn't film earlier this week, is I want to be able to post 2 videos a week. I was doing that for a while when I first came back to YouTube, and then I went down to 1 video a week with like an occasional second video, and that might be more of the norm. But the goal is 2 videos a week and then posting shorts every other day of the week. And my posting schedule has been like Tuesday or Friday, but please let me know in the comments down below what days you prefer when people post. I recognize that I interact with YouTube in a different way than a lot of other people, and that I will just binge everything from my subscriptions like whenever I can throughout the week. Like I just add everything that is in my subscriptions to my watch later, and I categorize them and watch them at my leisure. So I'm definitely not usually a person who watches stuff right as it comes out, but I know some people are. I know some people look for regular uploads and like have days of the week that they're more present to watch YouTube. So please let me know what your most likely day to watch YouTube is down below, because I do think I like the Friday uploads. I'm not as sold on the Tuesday. I know everyone and their mother uploads on Tuesday because that's the day I'm like, why are there like 16 videos for me to add to watch later right now? But maybe that's just my corner of the internet. I don't know. Another goal, especially for this channel, I think we'll stick to some of the YouTube goals for now, is to start my series on my time in my church cult, which is something I've been trying to figure out how to phrase and how I want to do it on here, because I did a very impromptu video on my TikTok, which I ended up posting later to my YouTube last year, based on my old church cult and the events that we would go to every year called North American Youth Congress, which was anywhere from like 12 years old to like 30 and above, including youth pastors and such, of young adults and kids coming together in like groups of like 30,000 from all over the country and sometimes the world. And they did a whole segment on praying for our president last year in 2025, and I was horrified and made a very like vulnerable, upset video about it. And I got so much crap for that on TikTok because it was right after Congress and all of the cult members found my TikTok. Honestly, the hatred on here wasn't nearly as bad as on TikTok, but then me trying to post another deconstruction video got attacked by a bunch of random people on the internet. So I've kind of like took a step back because I was like, do I really want to deal with this? Because that was a lot. And I think I'm going to rewind a little bit and give some context, and I want to talk about how I got into the cult, things that happened to me there, what our beliefs were, how I got wrapped up in it, what they expect of people, how they're responsible for a lot of what's going on in the country right now. Not namely my cult, but evangelicalism in general in America. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. Honestly, leave me questions down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer all of those. But that is something I've been wanting to get into for the last year or so, now that I'm in a better space of my deconstruction process. And I would love to be able to share it on here in some way, shape, or form. Another thing I've been wanting to do I have this? They're like tucked away. So when I was thrifting last year, after a certain person got inaugurated last January, I started thrifting at the bins a lot, namely books. And I noticed that there were a lot of textbooks being thrown out, which, like, with more context now, especially since a lot of them are history textbooks, we have a better idea of why. And I was snatching a bunch of them up. I have a bunch of them in storage. But 2 of the ones that I found were my actual history book that I had, not like literally mine, but the one that we were assigned when I was in school. I graduated in 2011, just for some context. And it was my high school history book that I recognized the cover of, and I was like, oh, I would love to have this. And I picked that up. And I've been wanting to read through it to see, like, through the lens of what I know I learned in school, even though I learned obviously more than we were taught in school post that. But I also at the same time found a history book that is a Christian nationalist history book, like told from a Christian worldview. And I really want to do a comparison of the two to see what they are both taught and not taught that normal, like, public school kids were being taught, at least back in my day of school back in 2011. So I feel like that would be an interesting series. And I'm trying to figure out how to go about that, whether I want to go by subject or just like flip through and do it at random. Unsure yet, but that's a plan for this year. I also personally really want to get into journaling in some way, shape, or form. I started journaling last year and I really, really like that. That's the one I feel like I can keep up with regularly. But I've also been hearing about the morning pages, but I also really want to get a little notebook so I don't actually forget to do it, where you're supposed to like just like free write I think it's like 3 or 4 pages each morning before touching your phone. I feel like that would be an interesting habit to get into. And then I also just want to be able to write down a lot of things to get a lot of the thoughts out of my head, because there's a lot of thoughts going on about the state of the world here in America, even in early 2026, let alone everything that happened last year. God knows what's to come. So journaling is going to be incorporated somehow. I'm not sure how much of that I will incorporate into the channel. We'll see. I would probably have to get back into vlogging to do that, but I really want to get a lot of sit-down videos done before I go back to the vlogging portion. Maybe find a balance of both. We'll see how that goes. I really want to reread The Hunger Games this year. I thrifted Catching Fire like a month or two ago. I own all of them, but they're packed away somewhere in my storage unit. If you haven't been along for the journey, me and my partner were unhoused for a while last year, and all of our stuff was put into storage when we moved the first time, and then we moved a second time. So a lot of my stuff is not currently very accessible. And since my partner got into The Hunger Games by me showing him all the movies over Christmas break, I've been looking to thrift more of just the physical books, even if they're in like really bad condition, just something that I can like annotate and that he can read, hopefully. And the only one I've been able to find currently is Catching Fire. I would love to find all of them, but I also know the other two books are so new that it's unlikely I'm going to find those two. But I do really want to get into those and annotate them and like do a deep dive on the Hunger Games this year, because I wanted to do it last year when Sunrise came out and I was so busy with work that it did not happen. So that is a goal for this year, hopefully. And a few non-YouTube things. I want to get more into podcasts. I'm really, really bad at like listening to media outside of YouTube, because I just binge watch YouTube in like my free time. But because I have so much more free time right now without having to go to a job every single day, I wanted to get into more like other forms of media. I listen to podcasts here and there. Like the only one I really listen to regularly are ones that have YouTube videos already and also just happen to be a podcast. But like there's a few that are just in podcast form. Like I really like Madeline Pendleton's podcast, Pick Me Up, I'm Scared, which is like deep dive, like neurodivergent deep dives on certain subjects of whatever it is that her and her friend researched that week. I really like that one. I've been catching up on that one recently when I get the chance. Two other ones that I really want to get into, April and her spouse Beecher have a podcast of just like their story, and like Beecher is non-binary and they came out of evangelicalism, like Pentecostal sects. And so I really want to hear their story, even though I've heard April tell it many times. She is a member of another podcast that I watch, which is the Tim and April Show, which covers a lot of Christian nationalism stories and news and things that are going on in the US and how it ties back to the evangelicals and everything they've been doing over the last few decades to get us to the point that we're at right now. And then another podcast that I really want to get into is Teacher Quit Talk. I follow Miss Redacted on TikTok. She is a teacher. She has gone from full-time teacher to substitute, which is what I did when I was still teaching. I went from full-time teacher of a daycare into a substitute for probably upwards of 10 to 15 daycares for about 2 years, and that was the job that I just left last year. And I really want to get more immersed in like the teacher quit talk of the internet, of like teachers and why they're quitting. I obviously have my own reasons, but a lot of ours are the same. So those are other things I would like to be talking about on here. I don't know how many people really care on this channel, at least. I hope that there will be more coming if I start talking about it, about best practices with teaching and my experiences with teaching and why I feel that people are leaving teaching as a profession, let alone the fact that it's under extreme attack with the current administration, which is a whole nother story in and of itself. Yes, public schooling is not as good as it could be, but also the attack that they're doing on it and the push for homeschooling is also incredibly bad, depending on the reasons for wanting to do it. So That's a subject I would like to do a deep dive into. So if that interests you, please let me know, because that's the one I am like the least confident more people would care about. At least people on this channel. I also have been trying to get back into watching other media, as I said, not only listening but watching. So me and my partner have been watching a lot of movies. For example, at the end of last year, we did a rewatch of all the Hunger Games movies. He's very excited for the new one, as am I, that's coming out in November. And I've been trying to like, there's a few shows that I've kept up with over the years. Like my favorite TV show of all time is Doctor Who, but I don't like the turn it took with the writing, not necessarily like the actors. I know a lot of people didn't like Jodie because she was a female doctor. That was not the reason I stopped watching the show. I stopped watching the show because their new writer was trash. And so I never got to Scooty or Nikuti or what, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I apologize. I never got to his episodes. And now Disney owns like Doctor Who, and I really don't think I like that. So I've been trying to find other TV shows to get into, and I've mainly veered towards documentaries, which is not TV shows. Obviously, some of them are multiple episodes and could be considered a TV show. Like, I've gotten into Shiny Happy People since last summer. I watched a lot of other cult documentaries or Christian cult things in general. I also want to get in. Oh, that was another YouTube thing I didn't mention earlier. I want to get into doing media wrap ups since I'm doing all of this other media, which is going to slow my reading down at least a little bit, as I'm fully aware of. So, alongside book wrap ups at the end of the month or every few months, I would also like to do other media I've consumed months. I know that there's a couple of channels that I follow that also do that, who do like half books, half other things, and I really like that style. So, I will probably be incorporating other things that I'm consuming other than just books in a wrap up style, and also in like video essay format. I don't think that's the right term, because a lot of my church stuff is not going to be video essay. It's going to be more of my experience. I don't know what the proper term for that is. Like, my evangelical conditioned brain wants to call it my testimony. But also that's a very triggering word for me. So if I find another word for that, I'll let you know. But yeah, those are just some of the things I want to accomplish on this year, in the year of our Lord 2025, of the chaos of the world. I also have a hard time creating when I feel very stressed. So we'll see if that 2 video week thing even happens. That is the goal, if I can be emotionally stable enough to do that. We're trying over here as the world burns around us, especially with everything that's going on in Minnesota right now. It's so hard for me to focus on things. And I've like low-key just been disassociating by reading fiction, which is not something I normally do. I'm very much I read when I'm relaxed, not that I read to relax, which I know a lot of people do. So we're trying to hang on over here. But let me know what your biggest goal of 2026 is, whether it's bookish or not, in the comments down below. If you have nothing to say and have no opinions on any of the questions that I have asked, please leave me a heart emoji of whichever one you would like in the colors in the comments. Please like the video. Please subscribe. I really appreciate it to get me out of YouTube purgatory algorithm hells that I've been in, as I keep mentioning. But thank you all for watching, and I will see all of you guys next time.